Okay, so touching upon the subject of traumatic memories, traumatic events, bad memories, negative emotions, negative entities, and things like that, we're talking about the space within us that maybe potentially be occupied by a negative emotion and a negative feeling that is causing us to be experiencing some form of dis-ease or some form of discomfort or some form of negative tension that is taking our attention away from things that are actually more important because we have received this mental parasite from our environment that was also programmed parasitically through parasitical means and things like that. And I'll touch upon that later. So a lot of us are unknowingly possessed by this negative emotion, by this negative demon, which is this negative light, this negative vibrational spectrum, and things like that. And these entities, I don't want to call them anything external or anything like that, but they do externally travel, just the same way like STDs and shit like that travel through sexual intercourse. These things also travel through the sexual intercourse that we have externally with other people's minds and things like that. AKA when two people collide with a mentality and things like that, their own sphere, that infusion creates certain things, and that may be sometimes disharmonious, unharmonious, and that may lead to sometimes negative events, negative memories, and things like that, aka more holistic situations rather than angelic situations, because we don't understand maybe potentially something that we're supposed to implement that we may think is evil from our point of view, but something externally is coming from a 180 degree to remind us of the opposite spectrum of that energy and shit like that. But that's like some whole other shit right there, right? So because we're actually possessing ourselves. That's what we need to remember, right? There's a particular vibrational resonance, whether it's worry, doubt, fear, self-hate, anger, whatever it is that we're justifying, jealousy, envy towards someone else outside of us, whatever it is that we are justifying within us, we are accepting being a host for that vibration that wants to play itself out externally in its environment so it can generate and create more hosts for that vibration. Because we need to understand that there's certain people, places, and things that have not cleaned and cleansed their souls through the renewing and the movement of their spirit, aka their spirit is in jail. So most of the world that we are in is made up of parasitical minds, and these parasitical minds by nature, unknowingly, just due to lack of doing shadow work and things like that, when you interact with these minds, especially with you being as a young spirit, because a lot of spirits that come from this dimension don't really know what they're doing. So you as a young spirit may interact with one of those spirits, especially when you're a child. Your parents may not understand, or your environment may not understand, or this teaching may not be passed on as far as you need to protect the mind of your children, things like that, protect the minds of people from certain thoughts and feelings and shit like that. And sometimes we may give the people around us or our parents or the generational curse that we may have gotten a STD, which is like a spiritual, like sexual transmitted disease. This via our mind interacting with their mind. We may try to include certain behaviors, certain vibrational spectrums that, is really just something that we are upholding as a generational curse that is causing us to be depressed and things like that we need to learn to let go of. But we think we need to uphold these things because these things is like we make up weird stuff around these negative demons, these negative entities, these negative emotions, and we think these are things that we have to play out, or not even we have to play out. We just can't see ourselves out of those things and shit like that. We hate the people that create a state of mind outside of those things that are experiencing an abundance, because we might be in lack, we might be in internal poverty, we might think that there's not enough for everybody and things like that. But all these is just negative emotions, negative entities that we are allowing ourselves to be a host for, and we don't think there's anything in reality even outside of that realm of perception or that realm of feeling and things like that, because these things become your glasses which by you see the world. So if you're an angry person, you're going to be triggered by a lot of people, places, and things that you are amongst, and things that you do, because you are already carrying that vibrational spectrum inside of you. And when a situation outside of you happens to trigger that vibrational spectrum, you're going to be basically triggered by it. That energy is gonna come forth. That demon spirit is gonna come forth from inside of you because it's what's already been programmed inside of you, and it's what you've already have accumulated. So you want to be able to let go of these parasites and things like that, and we have to kill these parasites through fire. Trial by fire, motherfucker. You better believe that shit. And what I mean by that is fire is the ability to purify. Fire is the ability to see something new within your reality rather than you seeing the world through that water, through that feeling, through that membrane, through that memory that you keep recalling. To really, it's you kind of letting your internal mind, your internal demon have its way with you, because you're supposed to control these things, not have these things control you. Kind of like how they make the allegory of King Solomon controlling his 72 demons or 77 demons or whatever, but it's referring to his internal dispositions, meaning that anger shouldn't use you. Aggression, transformation, going forward, you shouldn't use you, aka you going forward with slapping someone in the face that don't even make no sense, that person didn't even do nothing to you, right? And shit like that. You might want to go forward and be aggressive towards your goals that help God and all that's possible, and things like that. And that's some good shit to go forward with. But see, cleansing these things, we have to really begin to see ourselves anew, right? And when we see ourselves anew, that's like you creating a light spectrum, like creating a fire, seeing your life in a new way, burning through your old reality and seeing something new, right? So you create a portal, bam, fire. So you create a portal, you create a world, now you see the world differently around you. Rather than seeing the world from that old perspective, from that negative entity's perspective that's using you as a host to pass itself on to other people, places, and things around you, because this is actually what's going on. We have an emotion, a parasite that's transferring itself to people's minds around us through mind sexual intercourse. When our minds is interacting with other minds, we transfer information as well. And based on certain generational curses we accumulated, this information that we have been transferred to us unknowingly, for the most part, may have been laced with negative contents that are non-benevolent for ourselves and non-benevolent for our experience. So now, instead of us being in positions, or instead of us feeling like we are abundant and we are joyful and being enthusiastic and shit like that, and understanding how to use the energy of being depressed, understanding how to use the energy of pessimism and shit like that, when to use these things rather than letting these things use you and have their way with you. No, you use these things and you have your way for these things, because that you're just passing through that periodic table to understand something, not for you to get lost at the bottom of the monad and just be pessimistic, be depressed, feel like you gotta uphold something. If you feel like you gotta uphold something that's making you depressed down, you're carrying some weight, then you gotta let go of that weight so you can have room to give birth to pay attention, to give birth to something else, right? So when we see a new reality, a new location that we want to travel to, and have our spirit dwell within that space, because we're creating a new experience and shit like that, rather than our spirit dwelling within that old memory, observing that old bullshit again and again and again, we create a new space, we see a new space, and we start to observe that space and have our spirit dwell within that space and create thoughts and feelings there and shit like that. And then that fire become a water and shit like that. It become a memory and shit. It become a way of feeling. You're like, yeah, see where you want to be in reality. Feel how you want to feel within that reality and bring that shit into the present moment. Because you can either allow these parasites and shit like that to hijack your present moment because they're swimming in your waters, your body, aka your minds and shit like that, right? Or you can create some new, this is you creating an antioxidant, this is you creating a vaccine for that generational curse or for that trauma and things like that. And when you're able to create a vaccine for this generational curse, for this negative feeling, let's say you're dealing with fear and shit like that, you're fearful of people, places, and things, right? That antioxidant that you produce for fear, you're going to be able to sell that and distribute that to people, places, and things, people and places and shit like that. You're going to be able to, share your formula of how you killed the feeling of fear inside of you, right? Because a lot of us spirits be coming from geographical locations that got pillaged, that got a lot of rape happening there, a lot of like war happening there, a lot of like negative traumatic shit. And these things get passed onto us unknowingly, okay, through this body. But this body shouldn't have its way with you. You should have your way with it. Your internal demons should not have their way with you. You should have your way with them and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Real fucking talk. So, yeah, we really gotta learn to let go of those negative things, because when we let go of those negative things, we make room for something new in our life to happen. But we have to force that, right? It's not just, okay, I'm gonna take off this jacket, I'm gonna put on this new jacket, and that's it. No, it's you gotta put in the energy work, because when you put so much energy work into negativity, and when so much energy work you have been exposed to someone else's energy work that is negative, what I was talking about earlier, the parasites and shit like that, and the sex exchange and shit like that, you may have to deal with someone else's vibrational spectrum that you inherited via you being in their environment and shit like that. And you might need to even cleanse that and shit like that, because a lot of things be accumulating a lot of things from other people around us as well and shit like that too. So, but nothing is really a bad experience. A lot of these bad experiences, we just experienced a periodic table on an extreme level, rather than us being introduced into that space in bite sizes and shit like that. You may have experienced something extremely, but the extremity of it, you can include that into your understanding of the world and shit, like, because nothing is truly bad. You just have to take that experience, look at it differently, so you can change the internal chemical structure that you've attached to that experience, and it can actually begin to vibrate like something new, rather than looking at it like it's something old. But yeah, real shit. Love you all from the bottom of my heart.